two underlying things about trucking. To me, not understanding these two things is one of the things that leaves truck drivers exposed and leaves them vulnerable to things changing in trucking. So the first thing I would want a driver to understand, a truth about trucking, an underlying thing that exists in trucking that not many people talk about, is the fact that as truck drivers, we are all subject to shippers. We're all subject to the individual or the company shipping the freight. My dad has told me that several times in trucking, and what I believe he's trying to tell me when he says that is essentially that truck drivers are not necessarily in control in this aspect. And this is important for a new truck driver or somebody that is looking at coming in the industry to understand, because many of us come because we want to have more control over our life. And so you need to understand that in trucking, you can get to the point that you experience that control, but as a truck driver, your paycheck is subject to a lot of things that you can't control. One of those things being the shipper. If you're a driver, you are still subject to the shipper. If the shipper's not shipping anything, if there's no work available, then that affects your paycheck. Even a carrier that can set their own rates is still subject to what the shipper is paying, or if the shipper is shipping anything. And again, all that means is the truck driver is not as much of control as they would like to be. Now, this is not a bad thing about trucking, and I know it's pretty obvious, but the reason you need to understand this is because, to me, this keeps drivers from getting complacent. In trucking, especially when it's going good, it's easy to think that things will always be that way, but nothing could be further from the truth in trucking. And you need to understand, if you're new or if you're just looking at getting in, that you should not depend on things staying as they are in trucking, especially when things are going good. And that is because as a truck driver, regardless of how good things are going, things can change quickly without prior notice. And that's because you as a driver are subject to so many different things that control your paycheck that you are not in control of. I believe that is absolutely what my dad is trying to tell me when he says to me, you are, as a driver, you're always gonna be subject to the shipper. The second thing that I would hope that anybody watching this video would understand about trucking, a truth that doesn't get spoken about much, deals with a driver's supposed value or worth. So I'm reading a comment a couple of weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago, in a forum, a popular forum, and the driver is saying he turned down a load that was paying more than normal. It was paying good, but he didn't feel like it was paying him enough. The driver actually said, I'm not taking this load. I know my worth. I know my value. And I've heard drivers say that before. And I gotta be honest with you, family. I'm saying this to you as a driver. Every time I hear that, I literally cringe. Because to me, in certain situations, saying something like that or feeling that makes absolutely zero sense whatsoever. So as a fellow driver, as I'm reading this driver's comments about how he was going to turn this above average paying load down because he knew his worth, I'm thinking as a driver, what makes this dude believe that he is worth more or more valuable than another driver? In other words, we all have a truck. We all can get the freight from point A to point B in a timely fashion or on time, and we all can get the freight there undamaged. So what makes this driver think that he is worth more than another driver? Not even speaking about trucking, just speaking about economics. If you want to make yourself valuable or worth more, then you got to be willing to do something, or you got to bring something to the table that everyone else is not bringing to the table. If you're lined up in a room trying to get a job and the job requires you to have a degree, and one person has a degree and 9 people don't, then the one person, you could argue, has more value in the eyes of this employer But if the scenario is all 10 of them have the degree, then the degree is negated, and that's not considered value. If you understand value, then you'll always be seeking to do something that the next man isn't, or you'll always be seeking to grow into something or to service in a way that the next person can't do. This is what makes it so that you're separating yourself from the pack. And as a truck driver, it doesn't make sense that you're just like everybody else, but you're asking for top pay. Many truck drivers come into the profession just wanting to do a regular job and get top pay. But you gotta be willing to do something that other people aren't willing to do in order to command that type of value. And not understanding this as a truck driver, to me, it just makes you think that you should get paid more than you really do. A load is not underpaying you, especially if the next driver that comes behind you takes the load. Like, is the shipper really not paying what the work is worth if the next person comes behind you and takes the load? So this driver that is saying this, I know my worth, I know my value, you're not worth what you think you are if the shipper can still move the load. You're not worth what you think you are if the next man can do the same exact job that you can. So understanding this as an individual, as a truck driver, means that you're always seeking to make yourself unique, and you're always seeking to stand out. This means that you'll be able to command more pay. This is something that if you understand in trucking, it'll earn you more money. But to me also, if you just understand economics in general in life, this will earn you more. So
Maurice Bay, the Helpful Trucker here. For more helpful CDL tips, go here or consider subscribing to my YouTube channel right here. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but instead you chose to be here with me, and I really appreciate that.